So we know that there are about 1.1 to 1.5 million undocumented children under the ages of 18. I put that range because it's a 10 million number, right? And we know there's another 4.5 million kids who are born in the U.S. and are living in these stateless families. Okay, there are 65, and this number is really sketchy. You know, the numbers are around a while. We don't know if that's actually correct, but at least 65,000 undocumented students graduating from high school every year. This is a very recent number and a pretty accurate number, not published, but I got in touch with the head of the Hispanic Center, the director of the research center, Mark Rigo Lopez, and I asked him, what do we think is the number of undocumented scholars enrolled in college today across the United States? This is the number he's giving, 200 to 245,000. And we know that in California, about a quarter of the state, the states. Okay, here's the deal, guys. What I do, I'm not controlling that computer, so there's going to be a little asynchronicity going down, so forgive me. Forgive us, we're a team. You can't always know what I'm doing. So when I say it, maybe sometimes a little out of sync, so just deal with it as best you can. Usually I control my own slides from here, and it's actually not going down exactly that way. We'll try. Actually, what we'll do is let's do that. I say it. I start to say it, and then you put it on. Can we do that? Yeah. And if it doesn't work exactly, okay, or you. Okay, thank you. So that should say California has 1/4 of the. Yeah, well, actually, that is right. So my brain is not. Okay, so what is the Undocumented Scholars Project all about? It is a national survey focusing on the college experience of undergraduate undocumented scholar students. We know that there are graduate students. If you stop hearing me in the back of the room, just wiggle your hands, okay? It is a survey focusing on undergraduates. We know that there are graduate students, but like with all other research projects, you have to limit your population to a certain extent to be accurate. So this is the population we looked at. Most work has been done in one state or another. We were trying to get a kind of capture the national perspective. We had several goals. One was to expand our knowledge about a range of undocumented scholar experiences. We wanted to challenge false assumptions and damaging misperceptions, and we wanted to inform campus practices and services as well as local and national policy. Much of what we know is about Latino experience, and that is certainly a big part of the story, but there are undocumented scholars who are not Latino, and we were trying to move the narrative beyond simply the Latino story. So we were really trying to reach out across to Asian Pacific Islanders, Black Latinos. If you're in New York City, there are a lot of there are Black Latinos, because there are not Black Latinos, but there are a number of Black undocumented scholars, and we don't hear that experience very much. So we were really trying to get to a broader kind of range. And we also were trying to understand the 2-year college experience, the 4-year college experience. We know a lot about select colleges, like the UCLA experience. We know a lot about, but we don't know so much about what's going on in less select spaces. So, to develop our survey, what we did is we spoke. We had 3 participatory boards. We had a student advisory board made up of undocumented scholar students who helped us formulate our questions. So we were asking the right kinds of questions. They weighed in on the kind of first draft of questions and said, you're not asking it right. You're leaving out these items. What about this? What about that? We had 10 community advisory board organizations that helped us also think about our items, as well as to reach out into the community. And then we have a faculty advisory board, other experts beyond just the ones of us who are involved in the project. We launched our survey on March 1st. We closed September 30th. You do understand that we are only today, October 17th, right? So we are going to be revealing just the very tip of a little bit of the data today. And we kind of rushed fast forward just to try to have a story to tell you today, and as well as a conference yesterday. So it's all very preliminary, so please bear with us if it's not completely polished. Well, there is much more to come. And then we closed California because, you'll see in a moment, California represented in a much higher level than any of the other states, although we tried very, very hard to reach out to other states. So we're continuing. We had only a certain amount of funding, so we couldn't continue California. So we closed out California, not because we don't care about California, because we do, but because we couldn't just continue that. And we are continuing the rest of the states. We are pushing really hard still on a variety of fronts, but we'll be closing out towards the end of the month. We keep extending it one more week. And here's how so the question, go ahead. Thank you. So the question is, how do you reach a national sample, right? You can't just call people and say, oh, would you participate? Are you a member of this community? It's really a hard sample to get. So what we did is a very creative strategy, or we think, well, it was the only way we could think of to do this. We developed a website. We gave a lot of information to the community, and we used a very active social media campaign. Robert Tiranishi, my co-PI, and I kind of laughed because we are the biggest Luddites in the history of the planet, or maybe not the biggest, but we represent our generation. But because we had a lot of young people, talented, this is where Thomas took a big role, and Edwin Hernandez and other folk in our community, they really took the lead in doing the kind of outreach of this. So today what I'm going to do is our sample as of October 5th is 866 participants. As you can see, California is overrepresented. That's why we closed up on California. We're still moving in on the other states. What I'm going to talk about today is California. We're in California. We're a California crowd. We're going to talk about the California sample. Okay? Any questions so far? All right. So of California, you can see Mexico was the most, these are countries of origin. These are the countries that were most frequently represented. Latinos were the most represented, but we had 7% Asian population as well, and 1% of the other groups, which is, what we would expect. The average, our range of ages was 18 to 30. That's what we limited our sample to, and the average age was 21.5. 54% of our sample were female. Females always participated slightly higher in every survey. Females always represent a bit more than males. Also, females are more likely to go to college in every group, but this is a pretty good split, so I'm very pleased with that. 42.9% were attending community colleges, a little over 50% in four-year public, and another 4% in private. This is in California. It's almost over 9% in the national sample are doing private schools, so that represents what you would expect. California has less than the private schools. The age of entry ranged from 0 to 16 years. Average age 6.4, so quite young. And 93% were single, are single. Okay, so what I'm going to report mostly on today is the qualitative portion of this survey. Most of the questions took about, on average, to do the survey, it took 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes to do the survey. We tried to keep it tight and short, and almost all the questions are forced choice questions, right? You agree to disagree, strongly agree to strongly disagree, 5-point Likert scales, or you fill in, a number. So most of the questions are forced choice, but we had 3 open-ended questions. in the survey that we ask people to answer. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to give you a few of them. I'm going to give you some quantitative data too, because it's an interesting comparative story, or it gives you a kind of perspective on the data. One of the open-ended questions that I'm going to start with is, what are some of the biggest challenges you face as an undocumented college student? Okay? I think it's an interesting. So the first wave of data, and let me also tell you that obviously we couldn't code all 800 in 2 weeks. We didn't get to all 800 surveys. Imagine that. Not superhuman. But what we did is and I take responsibility for this first wave of coding. So what I did is I took 100 randomly chosen interviews, and I coded 100 of them and came up with coding categories. So what I'm going to report on is the first 100, and then the next step is going to be to establish integrated reliability, and then we'll sort of look how often we get different kinds of responses between 2-year, 4-year, public and private, girls, young women versus young men, how they're connected to mental health issues, etc. So we'll be doing more sophisticated data down the line. We'll code all of the responses, but this will give you a sense of emerging themes. And I think it's interesting enough that I'm going to report it now, because I think we see some interesting patterns already. So 4 issues emerged on this question. 4 broad themes emerged. Some were around on-campus domains. Another one was around practical domains beyond college. Another one was around juggling roles. And the last one was around psychosocial domains. So these are broad conceptual categories that, under which the larger themes were subsumed. Let me now give you a taste for the data on this particular question. So the first one was around campus life and the financial concerns around campus life. So for example, financing my education, there are limited scholarships, and financial aid barely covers costs. Not a surprise, but this theme came up often. Not having money to pay for school or to buy books. I got accepted into UC Berkeley, which was my dream school, but I was not able to attend because I was not able to get enough money from scholarships to go. It was so heartbreaking knowing how hard I worked in high school and still not being able to go. Another theme that emerged was being excluded from campus life. So, not being able to participate in many college experiences like studying abroad, interning in certain programs, getting academic jobs, and being able to travel with certain organizations. Lack of financial aid, which results in not being able to live on campus. So the idea of not being able to participate on campus was another thing. And let me just tell you that what I'm trying to do here is all of the young people who participated were telling us what their concerns were, and what I'm trying to do now is be the voice that comes back and tells us that story back out to the community. For many of you, this is, of course, that's the story. But what we're trying to do is go out and tell the story to those who don't get it. You know what I'm saying? And part of what I'd like this time to be here, for those of you who do know the story, please help verify whether or not the story is right. And if it's not, if it's dissonant or consonant, let us know so we get the story right. And then for those of you who are still in the learning phase, then please use this time to learn. Does that make sense? So that's what this talk is sort of trial going on. All right. Another theme that emerged was an issue around trust. So many of the young people talked about the need to find allies. One of the biggest challenges is knowing who I can turn to for help to understand my undocumented status as a college student. Not having a safe place where I can express my feelings about being undocumented. Finding people that I connect with and people I can trust. Another theme that arose was around around this kind of broader domain of practical concerns with the issue of deportation. Some people noted the constant fear of being deported because my deferred action expired or is about to expire and I don't have DACA, and legal battles. Others noted, and this was even more prevalent than concerns about themselves, was the concerns about their parents, being afraid of my parents being deported on any random day. And remember, these are responses to specifically the question about stress. Another set of concerns, practical concerns, was around working. I'm always tired because I'm working. There's no energy. I have 2 jobs, and then I'm scared of not passing my classes. And I have the symbol of juggling here because one of the things that that emerged around these practical issues is the idea of juggling working and school. Similarly, another thing that came out was around commuting. Here, I have the juggle symbol again because they're, not only are they talking about issues of commuting, but also around the theme of having to juggle that amongst other things. So this idea of juggling happens in juxtaposition of doing several roles at the same time. So, sorry, you didn't see what happened to my computer. So I commute and work, I take the bus to school, so it takes up a lot of my time, and I could be using it studying to do homework. Here you see this idea of juggling. And then there's another theme that arose under the stress question was the issues around uncertainty about the future. It is difficult to know. I'm being held back by something else. I think I did typo here. I'll have to check this one. It's difficult to know I'm being held back by something outside of my control. Worrying about future employment, coming out to employers as undocumented. It's not just stressful, but also depressing for any human being not being able to or be motivated to think, dream, and plan for the future. Another theme that comes out under the stress question or concerns question was around mental health issues. Quite frankly, I went through depression and anxiety due to my immigration status. I don't feel like college, like the college I go to is very undocu-friendly, but I feel like it would be difficult to go somewhere else. I have anxiety and depression issues, and I feel like being undocumented along with having family issues contributes to them. Another theme that arose under this particular question was an issue around exclusion. And this symbol is horribly offensive, but I use it as a symbol of exclusion. And when I was living in San Diego 20 years ago, this was something we saw regularly on the freeway. The stress of being looked down upon for being legal, being scared that people will discriminate against me or treat me differently because of it. My biggest challenge is being accepted by my peers. I feel hopeless, isolated, and unable to fit in and be part of society. So these are all, these were not just things that came up once in a while. This came up on a regular basis, and sort of sense of exclusion. And yet, at the same time, there was a longing to belong. So not having those same rights and benefits as my peers makes me feel like a foreigner, even though I now feel close to U.S. culture, closer to the U.S. culture than to my Mexican culture. I learned that I know the importance of an education and the power the U.S. has outside. I was raised here. It is my home sweet home. So why is it wrong for me to want to stay, serve, help, and work here? I too love the USA and want to be a citizen and have freedom. So I now bring to you one of the quantitative results, and this was actually something that I struggled with even including this particular item. But they say that Latinos, Mexicans in particular, by the way, are said to have the lowest rate of choosing to become citizens. I don't know if you follow that particular piece of, the political scientists are obsessed with that particular item, that folks who are Mexicans who are born abroad have, when given the chance to become U.S. citizens, have very low rates of becoming citizens. Okay, and they're a big discussion about, well, why does that happen? Why doesn't that, why aren't they participating? So I just threw in an item at the last minute that says, if
if you were eligible in the future, would you apply for U.S. citizenship? And lo and behold, remember, I mean, this follows this. It doesn't follow in the survey, but it's something to think about. So, and let me just say for a second, so you can have two hypotheses, right? So one hypothesis is, sure, of course everybody's going to want to become a citizen because it's a practical issue, right? Of course you're going to want to become a citizen. Although if you get naturalized, you have almost all the same rights. You can't vote, but you can get in and out. You don't have to worry about deportation. You have almost all the same rights. Not all, but almost all the same rights. The other hypothesis is, why would you want to join a nation that has excluded you all your life, who's treated you horribly all your life? Why would you want? So, one theory is that there would be a very low rate of responding. But why would I want to become a member of a country who has excluded me my entire life, symbolically, right? So, here's the response to that answer. 74% said they were very likely to want to become citizens. Another 15% said they were likely. Only 8% were undecided. And only 3% said they were unlikely or very likely. Very unlikely not to. Had I been a betting woman, I would not have bet it quite that high. I would have bet it high, but I would not have bet it that high. Especially around the exclusionary policies. So that interesting, which I think speaks to this belonging to belong notion. Okay, now moving to another set of open-ended questions. Before we got to the next open-ended question, we had a question that says, did you apply for DACA? So just in case you're interested, 64% of our participants applied for DACA. Most, we actually don't know how many were eligible for DACA, but we have, most of the folk in our sample probably were eligible for DACA. I mean, they were, we can't know for sure because there are things that exclude folk for DACA, but they're right in the age group, all of them were enrolled in college. There's a small percentage that came after their certain age. I mean, we could, it's probably a whole lot more than 64%. And 22% said they didn't qualify, and another 15% not sure whether they qualified. So it's interesting that, and we had a whole very interesting conference yesterday at UCLA around why people do or do not apply for DACA. So there seems to be a potential under-enrollment here. But in any case, here's that data. And then we asked, right after that question, if you apply for DACA, in what ways has your college experience changed since you obtained DACA? Okay? So these are this is how we coded the responses to that. Again, here are broad categories. We asked, of the data, we saw that some people told us it did change, and other people, So we first coded, did they say something about change? The next thing we coded is how it changed their life in academic domains, if they said something more about that. Whether or not they talked about practical domains outside of college, beyond college, and then whether they talked about something beyond psychosocial domains. All based on open-ended responses, right? Not forced choice. Okay, so to the issue of did it make a change in their life, many of the folks, and again, I'm sorry, I don't yet know what percentage, we have not that level of coding, but many of the 100 that we coded said there was a positive change reported. So it improves my experience by making me feel more in control of my life. Before I felt impotent, now little by little I'm starting to feel like my dreams are possible. Now other folks said, nah, it didn't really change my life all that much. Okay, so I would say that what's emerging is a kind of no perceived change. Now, how many, I don't know. The digging into the whys and wherefores, don't know yet. So, we're not going to report on the data publicly, very far beyond the, informações or a WOG. But here's some of the things that were coming from the data. It really has not changed much, as I have always been open about my situation. So some folks were saying, I've always been out. So it didn't really change anything in terms of at least my day-to-day, the way I walk around in the world. And then other people said, this came up a few college experience has not changed after I became DACA because it is essentially a permit for work, which is something I've already been doing since high school permits. But more to come in terms of what it all means. Then there were perceived, and in the academic realm, the perceived ability to transfer to a better college is certainly something that emerged. Ability to transfer to a four-year college. So for example, DACA is the reason I was able to transfer to a four-year institution. My acceptance to Berkeley is no longer a possibility. Berkeley represent comes up a lot. Sorry, I can't graduate. Okay, pardon me? Okay. Then there was ability to participate in, okay, you need to, please, I'm sorry, I cut it off wrong, sorry. I'm still learning to play with the special effects thing. So being a DACA recipient allows me to immerse myself in college, campus life. Again, that sounds like the last theme, but this is to another question, so this theme comes up again in this other question. Okay? So I know I'm sounding repetitive, but this is actually to another question. So being able to immerse in campus life, most notably in the pursuit of internships, on-campus jobs, and ability for professional development. And now I am now aware that I had the opportunity to study abroad, which is something I've wanted to do since I began college tours in high school. I always thought it was something I couldn't do because of my status, but now with DACA, I'm applying to be able to do that. So the ability to study abroad is a big change. A lot of people talked about it. I almost felt like study abroad was by itself a theme code. Another practical level was on improved financial well-being. I get help with financial aid to pay my tuition. It's been a financial relief to pay the difference instead of paying full tuition. The financial load is much lighter because I'm able to get a job. I have simple privileges like opening a debit bank account. Another practical level, ability to work. I can work legally now. It makes me feel safer knowing that now I can publicly tell people that I'm working legally and not under the table. Most notably in the pursuit of internships, on-campus jobs, etc. Okay, again, on the practical level, in response to the DACA question, a reduced fear of deportation. And here I want to separate it out on the personal level. So I'm more calm about not being deported. I don't have to worry about being detained and deported. Two different people saying that. But then there was still, this ongoing concern for loved ones. So, and here I'm going to scaffold back to quantitative data. So we had a question that asked how many of you, do you know anyone who's personally been deported? 54% said they did know someone. 29%. Then we have a question that says, how worried are you that that a parent will be deported or a friend will be deported? 54% said they were worried most of the time. Another 32% said some of the time they were worried that a family member or a friend would be deported. So this is an ongoing, nagging concern in people's lives. And you sample quotes gives you a sense of what this feels like. I'm afraid for my parents and brother who does not have DACA yet. The fear of deportation never goes away entirely until you know your whole family is protected. Another domain that got better post DACA was around mobility. Driving before DACA always made me nervous. I commute and work. I take the bus to school, so it takes up a lot of my time that I could be using to study, do homework. Having the permit has allowed me to fly out of the country that I would not have been able to do before. It has given me so much mobility and freedom. Another domain, improved post-DACA, is increased well-being. My future looks a lot brighter. I struggled with depression before, and it wasn't until the California Dream Act passed that my college experience became more positive. And I should say that there's a little, people kind of confuse DACA and the California Dream Act, because the question specifically said, how did you like it better after DACA? But folks would give responses post the California Dream Act. So in their, for California folk, in their life, the two are not very different, I would say. something to look at. I do not feel as worried about my immigration status as I did before, therefore I'm less prone to feeling anxious and depressed, something I experienced greatly before DACA. Before DACA, it felt like I was carrying a black cloud of rain over my head, full of fear and insecurity. Back to the theme of belongingness, which emerged again under this particular question. I feel accepted now that I have a work permit. It opened up my world to new opportunities, but more importantly, it has restored my sense of belonging in this country and desire to better myself. I feel I belong in America because I have legal status. It makes me feel more American. And most important, it opened a brighter future. And I made this commentary yesterday. When I was looking for images, I decided a rainbow would be a good image for a brighter future. But when I looked at all the images, most of the rainbows are these really blindingly bright rainbows, you know. I picked a muted rainbow because I think that fits more the kind of symbolism that is applicable. It has allowed me to believe in my dreams, especially in finding my identity and reach my ultimate goal of becoming a nurse. There were other professions that emerged. My future looks a bit brighter. I struggled with depression before, and it wasn't until the California Dream Act and DACA passed that my college experience became more positive. So, the story I've told you is one I hope that accurately channels the narrative of, based on the first wave of analysis, and I hope to get it even clearer and straighter and more accurately over time. What I will now do is share with you the responses, and then I'm going to open it up. I want to really open it up to Q&A. What I want to end up on is a positive, is the most positive note possible, because I would like to end on a reading book, if you will. So the last question is, we asked the young people, the last question of the survey is, so, if you had, what recommendations would you make to college administrators about how to serve the undocumented students on campuses? And, you know, can I just tell you that, you know, I've been doing this kind of work for different kinds of, you know, surveys and projects for years, and usually people on surveys don't fill out open-ended questions. They just, you know, they're tired, they just want to get it done, they're, you know, they don't put their all in open-ended questions. Our participants they just like poured their souls in their responses, including this, you know, last question that most people leave blank. They just, you know, it was incredible how much great advice they gave. So I really feel, and you know what, I was gonna like do this the last, analyze this the last, but when I was asked to do this talk, I felt like I've got to at least look at this. And damn if it isn't a great story. So I'm gonna give you the story again, very preliminary, but I would like to share it with you. Okay? So here is what young people told us. So the first theme that came out was listen and learn. So here's some of the, can you read the back? Oh, okay. I hope you're going to be able to read the back of the room. I will read them to you. So I think first and foremost, they need to get educated. They need to learn about our needs and how to best suit us. Listen to our stories. We do need money to solve our problems. Spelling wrong, sorry. Lots of time, but what we also need is people who understand what we're going through and are willing to support us through it. Listen to the student population. If there are students who are openly declaring their status, have a conversation with them. Start an undocumented student task force. Provide workshops and more resources for these students. Have more events that promote issues about immigration in order to raise awareness. Many administrators and professors don't even know about AB 540 students or that undocumented students are able to go to college. They should be aware of, apologies for another typo, they should be aware of the resources available for them. because many students don't know about them, and when they do, administrators, when they do, administrators go to help, they provide incorrect information. So listen and learn. I mean, if I'd done a search for listen, it would have come up over and over and over again. Another, get trained and really learn about the issues. Educate yourself and others on what you can do to better serve undocumented scholars. Attend organizations, meetings, training, rallies, workshops to really understand what an undocumented student is. Okay. The next one was train your staff. Educate the staff about Dreamers. They really need to enforce their staff to be trained in all the laws that pertain to undocumented students and what they go through in the educational system. Provide staff support in financial aid and advising. Train staff, faculty, etc. on how to do work with undocumented students and what language to cut out of the vocabulary, i.e. illegal. People said that a lot. Then they ask for endorsement. So actively welcome and support undocumented scholars as part of the campus community. I would want them to publicly state that they support undocumented students. Make us feel like we're part of the student body. Then they want equity of treatment. Treat us all the same. I can tell when I'm treated like an immigrant. Treat everybody equally, no matter the race, religion, social status, or legal status. We are all the same. No one is better than others. Next request, there were 10 of them, by the way. Be empathetic, be responsive, warm, respectful, approachable, open, is the way I define this. Realize that you are a very important influence on students, especially undocumented students, so be sensitive, non-judgmental, patient, motivating, and above all, a person that's approachable and trustworthy. Be very sensitive to the student situation and treat them with respect and kindness. Everyone deserves that. The next recommendation is respect privacy. Be very discreet. Don't out anyone until they're ready to come out. So to college administrators that work with and support undocumented students, please respect our privacy. Don't disclose our status to college friends or other students. Also, don't pressure us to disclose our status, our story, or participate in activities that would lead us to disclosing ourselves. They should develop a code of confidentiality that makes students feel safe to express what they are going through. I'm going to have to edit this one more time, apologies. Safe zones. So there were many requests for creating safe zones. Remember, we sampled across a law, or we sampled, people gave us responses across a whole lot of schools. Some schools have safe zones. A lot of schools don't have safe zones. So there were requests for safe zones. Be open so undocumented students are aware that there are safe spaces. There should be more clubs. Those clubs should focus on providing moral support along with information. Most undocumented students live in fear and are embarrassed of revealing their immigrant status. Therefore, it would be great if campuses could have a place where students can feel safe and are not targeted. Make a student-centered counselor dedicated for undocumented students. A lot of schools have an LGBT office in which LGBT students come out and talk about their issues. This is an analogy I've been taking for years. It would be great if there are support services on campus. Have a go-to person on this matter. Okay? Last 3 recommendations, and these are quick. Obviously, financial support. I want colleges to provide financial aid for undocumented students. By this, I mean scholarships, internships, work study for undocumented students. Charge undocumented students for tuition and housing the same as everybody else. And then information, provide more useful and, let's emphasize, and accurate information. Now, I know that's hard because it's a moving target and it's always changing, but there should be somebody, a go-to person that's their job to keep on track of that. Be up to date on certain laws pertaining to undocumented students. Help them to find more resources and discreetly organize them to improve their college experience and their lifestyle. I'm embarrassed about the editing about this. Sorry. I would recommend having more support and information available We live with fear to have to take a step. We live with fear to fail and lose everything. And lastly, provide counseling supports. I want colleges to have all counselors to be knowledgeable about the undocumented struggle and to understand how difficult it actually is for that student to be in school. Training mental health professionals is key. It is discouraging to speak to a counselor who knows nothing about your situation. Have faculty in counseling that are capable of helping undocumented students. So, as you can see, students had very clear ideas of what to do and what to say and how to get help. Good practical strategies. And we would like to get that word out as soon as possible. So in conclusion, I want to say that this is all a very, very embarrassingly preliminary foray. It's, as you can see, a million typos, of which I'm very embarrassed. I'm a little bit obsessive compulsive, but it's not, we're trying to get the story pulled together and making it pretty and making it compelling. Didn't get quite to the last step. We will get it right. We are working as a team. We're all going to fact check amongst ourselves. But one of the pieces that is really important to us is, does this resonate with you? Is it resonant? Are there pieces that are dissonant? And we want you to know that this is going to go through many iterations before it goes fully live in public. And we want to be very attentive that the message will affect change, because why bother if it doesn't. So thank you very much for your attention, and this is the team that makes it happen. Next time it'll be one of them who's up with us. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions?
One question? Yes.
Once everything is finalized, where can we find it?
Great question. We're going to put it on our website. We're going to start rolling out pieces of it on the website. So that's like the fastest and quickest we're going to do putting it out. We're going to do policy reports, and then we're going to be putting it out in articles as well. So for the very first place, just to make it fast, it's going to be put on our the website, Undocuscholars. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I know you have all been sitting down for a long time. It's been a long day, so we're going to do a quick activity before our last section of this conference. So if you can all look around and find another person that you don't know and sit with them. Get up, stretch. We've been sitting all day.